welcome to episode 31 of Footballland. It's Mark Davison doing an Anthony Richardson style introduction.
This is stupid. I don't really do that. I just say hello in an excited way.
You brought up the constipated weasel.
I'm getting really self-conscious about how I start things. I just try and bring energy in.
Mate, these impressions are from a position of love and affection.
Right.
We love your introductions.
Right.
I can't do them as well as you. The only way I can is if I become you. So that's what I've just done. Anyway, hello and welcome. This is meeting number 31 of Footballland. We've been accidentally given $1 billion, so we're designing a football-themed theme park out in Qatar.
What else would you do with $1 billion?
So, would you like to introduce yourselves? Who was that who just mentioned $1 billion?
It was me. It was Ryan Baxter, the man with no middle name.
No middle name. And who was I doing an impression of?
Anthony Mark Hugh Richardson. I've got two middle names to make up for his.
Mark
Hugh.
Yeah,
Mark Hugh Richardson.
That's quite difficult to say. Mark Hugh.
Well, I am officially Mark John Davison, but I hated that name so much when I was growing up and thought it was boring that I pretended throughout my school years that my real name was Marcus Joshua, like that's any better. So there are people that knew me at school who I haven't seen in 30 years who still refer to me on Facebook and stuff as Marcus Joshua, thinking that's my real name.
I've just realised that I need to add son to the end of my name to fit in.
Do you know that it's not son of Richard and it's not son of Davis? It's actually a Scandinavian naming culture where it was the plural, so it would have been the Richards, the Davises.
Well, we were all goat herders, even like as recently as 150 years ago, illiterate goat herders, so we're probably descended from the Dawsons.
I'm a female baker.
Really?
That's what Baxter is, yeah.
Is that is the Anglo-Saxon Old English?
It's French Cornish. It's actually Baecster, Bakestra.
Wow.
And Ryan means small king. So
small king. What, like a young king or
No, I think it means little king.
Diminutive king.
Yeah,
little
I think
king.
it means little king of female bakers. So I should have a harem of bakers.
So you should be smaller than you are and have breasts.
I mean, this all decided. I just wanted to fit in and be Ryan Baxterson.
Yeah, but now you've got a pair of tits.
Okay, so Ryan, what are you going to be throwing into the ring today?
So I have Juan Sebastian Veron's shoe shine.
Intriguing. Very good. Anthony, you're handling the patron contribution.
Yeah, I've got Patreon this week. I've got Ed Singleton. He's written in with Tottenham Hot Potatoes. It's a food concession stand.
Very good. And I will be pitching something based on the 2005 Champions League final. Before we get to that, I've been working on an advert for a previous guest ride. This was Tom Deacon from, I can't remember when, a couple of months ago. He pitched us England Fan Haunted House.
It's coming home. It's coming home. And it's going to eat you.
That's bagging, Mark. Who's up first? Is it you, Mark?
It is me. Yes.
Oh.
So,
what have you got then?
Right. So it's called, and this is a very catchy title, I'm sure you'll agree, it's called Indiana Benitez and the Temple of the Miracle of Istanbul.
Right.
And it's written in such a way that if you look at the word Istanbul really closely or from certain angles, it says Christanbul in reference to a couple of seasons into Brendan Rodgers' reign when Liverpool were chasing the elusive Premier League title. They were 3-0 up against Crystal Palace, and in a reverse of the 2005 Champions League final, they let it go and they drew 3-3, which probably cost them the title along with some other mistakes. So I think you need to wear an outsized fedora in honour of Indiana Jones. It's sort of replicating the start of Raiders of the Lost Ark. So you go into a sort of temple type thing. And I think one of the remarkable and lesser reported stories from that final in 2005 was the plight of Djimi Traore, who was a much maligned defender. He was in the starting lineup because Liverpool was short of players, and he gave away the goal on 50 seconds. So it was a disastrous start from what was perceived to be a disastrous player. Benitez wanted to take him off at half-time such that he'd got into the shower. He got out of his kit, he was in the shower, and then the medical staff said to Benitez, well, Steve Finnan's injured, he can't carry on. So Djimi Traore came out of the shower and was told, get your kit back on, you're still playing.
Do you think Djimi Traore did that for every game after that for the rest of his career?
He was so superstitious that he used to disappear on 22 and a half minutes so that he could have a mid-half shower and then come back. But I think in honour of that, and in honour of the general approach to clothes that we seem to have in Footballland, you enter this temple with an outsized fedora hat on and nothing else. Maybe a towel wrapped around you. And you're showered. You run through like a car wash to get into this temple so that you're fully wet.
Right.
So this whole experience, you need to be out in 6 minutes, which is how Liverpool came back. They scored 3 times in 6 minutes. As you enter the temple, if you remember that scene early on in Raiders of the Lost Ark, there's a boulder that gets released and is chasing him. So that is the Christian ball. So that is chasing you throughout these 6 minutes. If it squashes you, it's polystyrene, so it won't hurt. If it squashes you, that's your ride over to replicate the comeback of Crystal Palace. I had thought that there was a fork in the road in the tunnel as soon as you get into the temple. And if you take the wrong one, you leave straight away in memory of the droves that left at half time. But you may challenge that, Anthony, and think
as long as there's a sign up above saying that this might be apocryphal.
It's quite a highbrow sign for a football stadium.
True.
A couple of details I should have mentioned earlier. I think Harry Kewell was a gamble at kickoff, and it didn't pay off because he did nothing and then went off injured on 23 minutes. So I think to replicate that, the fedora should be hung with corks that sort of get in the way. And also, because this is replicating the second half, as you go in, we want something to kind of symbolise or represent the halftime team talk by the Spanish-speaking Benitez. Every account of that half-time, apart from Benitez says he gave a rousing speech. Everyone else says, no, he didn't speak enough English to do anything like that.
I'd love it if he was having a shower with Djimi Traore. Just calling out from the shower about what he thinks they should do, barking a few instructions while washing his balls.
Well, yeah, I think we have a recording of some nonsensical English with the sound, that peculiar soapy fart noise that when you're lathering up your pubic area to last you for the rest of the body wash.
Anyway, so Rafa Benitez is soaping his balls while barking out instructions. I'm looking forward to the animatronic.
Yeah, and maybe the only English you catch in broken Spanish is like, don't use that on your face, it's been on my mouth. And then I think as you climb through this kind of adventure playground, largely in the dark, it's like a Klondike without a cart.
Is this
I
our
suppose.
third Klondike? We went from not knowing what a Klondike was to having 3 in the space of a month. This is a Klondike
on foot, so we're calling it a temple. Temple of Klondike. The last stage is the penalties, isn't it?
Which I'm glad
I'm glad you're getting round to.
The controversial penalty shootout,
Well, I mean, you call it controversial, and you're also calling this a miracle, and not to totally undermine the entire ride or the Liverpool fans' experience, but how I see this game is, one team scored 3 goals in the first half, and the other team scored 3 goals in the second half. Which,
if you reversed it,
that's not really a miracle. That's a fairly even game of football.
Look at what they were like on paper.
Paper's one thing, isn't it? And then there's reality, and reality is firmly what I'm talking about here. You're talking about a 3-3 draw that went to penalties. If it was maybe a 4-3 victory, I would kind of be with you. But
I think a miracle is more all the goals happened in the second half. If Milan scored 3 and then with 4 minutes to go you scored 4, that's a miracle.
Surely there's a romantic side of each of you that recognises Liverpool were getting absolutely battered by a vastly superior team. It's classic underdog coming back against all odds.
But it's not a huge underdog.
They had Djimi Traore in the side.
So, this is the thing. I think you're starting to hit on something now. Maybe it's more of the underdog of Istanbul rather than the miracle, and that's a little bit of the Raiders theme as well, isn't it? Plucky old Indy.
Yeah, against the Nazis. I'm not suggesting AC Milan were a bunch of Nazis, but Indy was an underdog.
You know, he's a controversial figure.
Yeah.
Well, I like the idea of replicating, because Jamie Carragher went up to Dudek before the penalty shootout and said,
cheat, just run off your line.
Just come off your line.
Just come off your line about 12 feet and you'll be able to save it.
Just come off your line. Just fuck it up.
I can't remember which penalty it was, but one of them he's massively off his line. I mean, he's
off his line on all of them.
Is it all of them? It probably is all of them.
Here's a question for you. Right, so if Liverpool hadn't won on penalties, do we think it would have, say they just won 4-3, you know, they went on, I don't know, like 79-minute winner, you know, there's like 12 minutes, 15 minutes left with added on time.
Yeah.
Would it have been called the Miracle of Istanbul? Do you think the miracleness comes from the drama of the penalty shootout as well, and kind of 3 saved penalties?
I think that the penalty shootout definitely added drama and tension on the night, and it made it even more excruciating to anyone that cared about the result. But the miraculous element of it would probably have been better served if it had been a 4-3 victory. Dudek also saved from Shevchenko in extra time that was one of the best saves, certainly of his career, scooping it off the line. But I think to replicate the wobbly legs, because Carragher went up to Dudek and said, just do what Grobbelaar did in 84, where he similarly cheated and just went all wobbly, like one of those inflatable men that flap around outside cars.
Yeah, and those little, do you remember those like little donkeys that you used to get on like a wooden base?
Their legs all collapse when you push
the bottom and you can pretend to shoot it. Yeah. So I think, I don't know how this is judged, but at the you've run through this underground chamber of weird things to do, totally naked, but for a cork hat, and I think you just have to do like 30 seconds of wobbling.
You could be trying to do, you know, like a wobble board, and it's linked to a graphy sort of like lie detector test, one of those pens that goes up and down on the paper.
Yes, that's good
to check your movement, and if your waveform is high and low enough, then you get your clothes back.
Yeah, and I think that bit of the ride is it's high.
That's every Footballland ride, isn't it? That essentially, what's the point of this ride? Oh, well, you've got to win your clothes back.
Yeah. I think this bit of the ride is quite high up and behind a glass case, so anyone thinking, shall we go on that? They get to see 30 seconds of naked people wobbling with a cork hat on.
Yeah, and the glassness replicates the walk from The Last Crusade, right? Where he sort of has to step onto the
nothing.
The nothingness that is something, and get across.
Yes, that's very good. Yeah, I like that.
Leap of faith.
Should the wobbling in a glass case or walking across a bridge of nothing naked, should that be the same amount of time that the penalty shootout took, which I'm guessing is about 20 minutes?
I think you've actually just probably hit on renaming this ride, which is, rather than the Miracle of Istanbul, it should be probably called the Bridge of Nothing, because as we've just sort of
the wobbly bollocks Bridge of Nothing,
and Istanbul is obviously very famously has lots of bridges. You know, the Bosphorus goes underneath them. You've got Europe and Asia, sort of 2 continents, 2 countries. I think that what you're trying to touch on is that, you know, Liverpool fans made something out of nothing, and they bridged, you know, reality and fantasy, and made quite a bit of money, a film, a play, and you know, lots of T-shirts and all sorts of crap out of it that's gone on for years.
Yeah,
so very good. Yeah. Oh, well, congratulations, Mark. I think that you've kind of hit on...
consent from Mark whatsoever. Just congratulations.
You've actually, that is a sterling deconstruction you've made there. Brutal, if anything. Cutting, and I think we're going to get a lot of complaints, but I'll pass them all on to you from Liverpool fans.
Thank you.
You basically ridiculed Liverpool's greatest success in European competition.
Well, that was my sole intention. So votes for what was originally called Indiana Benitez and the Temple of the Miracle of Istanbul / Christanbul, but is now called Liverpool's Bridge of Nothing, say aye. 3, 2, 1.
Aye.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Congratulations,
Mark.
That's great.
Lovely.
Well done.
Well done, Mark.
Thank you.
Well done.
I think we'll talk about the important second half for this crew. By me in the shower at the moment with Djimi, Traore, soaping up my pube.
Have you got a patron?
I've got a Patreon.
Great.
He's Ed Singleton.
Oh, yeah.
He wrote this. I like it because on Patreon it says what time people have, written the message. He's written this at 10:42 p.m. So late night. He's either been in bed already or he's just about to get into bed.
Yeah.
He's had a brainwave.
He's a couple of tins in, isn't he?
Maybe he's had a socially distanced pint and he's mulled over his ride idea, and he's finally written it in late at night, oil lamp burning.
Oil lamp? That's a bit dangerous.
And a quill in hand. And he's written, I had an idea for an attraction for Footballland. It would probably be a stall in the food court, and it would be called Tottenham Hot Potatoes. It sells baked potatoes, and they generally look pretty nice. Fairly boring for the most part, but with some really nice toppings on them.
Yeah.
They're prepared with care, and you're really anticipating it, but just as they're passing it to you, they drop it. Every single time. They're deeply apologetic, and they swear they'll get the next one right, but just as they hand it to you, they drop it again, and again, and again. To be fair to them, he says sometimes they drop it when they're halfway through making it. This continues forever until you give up and go to a different food stall, or you die.
Oh, dear.
Is Ed Singleton by any chance a Spurs fan?
Yeah, he seems as if
I
he's...
sense a little...
anyway.
Yeah.
They also sell lasagna, but don't order that, as it will give your whole family the shits. And then he's written in brackets, feel free to improve this description. I'm not a writer. I've got a couple of things to add. Basically, it's obviously how Bottley Spurs are, and he hasn't included any bottles, which is, I like that because bottling would have been the easy route, but he's gone for the hot potatoes, and that's great.
We could do, like, ships in a bottle. You could do a hot potato in a bottle.
That's good, yeah.
But wouldn't the bottle steam up and you wouldn't be able to see it?
True. Not if it's cold. I mean, it's not as if you're going to eat it. Maybe you can see them cooking away, but then he puts a prop potato in a bottle.
Also, I don't mean to give away trade secrets, but the ship in a bottle is kind of...
It's not a real ship.
They don't just do a model ship and then just stuff it in, because it would be bits of a ship in a bottle. So in the same way that, it's erected inside the bottle, the potato would be formed inside the bottle. I don't know how we do this, but we're not just taking a baked potato and stuffing it through the neck of a bottle.
I always thought that a ship in a bottle it's like a collapsible ship, and it's all on a bit of a wooden dowel. So you poke it through, and then you rip out the dowel, and then it all springs up. Is that how it's made?
Whip out the dowel.
Yeah.
Is that what you say when you whip out the dowel?
Yeah, it's like chucks
I'm not
away.
sure they're whipping it out. I imagine. I'm sure they're taking it out very, very carefully after constructing this collapsible ship that's got to fit through the neck of a bottle, and then it's in place. Just got to wait for whip out the dowel, whip it out, get that dowel out, and move on to the next one.
And it's also the reverse of the collapsible donkeys that we spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
In that you're pulling little strings to uncollapse the ship. So
erectable donkeys.
Donkey erection in a bottle.
Yeah.
That's gonna shatter it.
Right. Someone fancies donkeys.
Well, if there's anything I know about donkeys,
You sure Baxter means Lady Baker, not donkey fancier?
Oh, that would shatter a bottle donkey.
Donkey fancy is a different thing. There's no sex involved with donkey fancying. It's like pigeon fancying.
Yeah,
you take a donkey miles away from your house and you go, fuck off, and it finds its way back.
Or not. No donkey's ever found its way back, but it's still a thing.
Could we combine these both ideas and put lasagna on a baked potato? So
celebration of the calm.
You basically give the punter a lasagna topped baked potato in a bottle. They then you then hand them it to, but the bottle falls out of your hand, smashes in front of them. They've got to then eat the potato on the floor on hands and knees with bits of glass getting in their mouth, and then to top it all off, 5 minutes later they shit themselves.
That is the Spurs experience, isn't it?
That is exactly the Spurs experience. I think Daniel Levy has to be the person making these potatoes because he is the man sort of overseeing the whole thing.
Well, I mean, he looks a bit like a potato oven.
I was going to say that. I think
he looks like a potato oven.
I think when you approach the baked potato oven, there's 3 kind of bold pates, and 2 of them are potatoes, and one of them is Daniel Levy, and you have to slap one, and if it doesn't move, it means you've slapped a potato and you can't get anything. But if you slap the top of Daniel Levy's head, then he just stands up and went, what do you want on your potato? or I guess you could put lasagna on Daniel Levy's head.
Yeah, I was going to say, should we kind of disguise Daniel Levy's head a bit more with some toppings?
Yeah, I think. I mean, lasagna would be quite a good kind of warm toupee, wouldn't it? An edible toupee.
Surprised people don't do that more.
Yeah.
The thing with the lasagna is they had it before they nearly got into the Champions League. It was a massive thing for them then. They were going to come into, they were going to get into the top 4, and then they stayed at the Marriott Hotel the night before West Ham, and they all had lasagna, and actually there were no traces of any food poisoning that could have come from the lasagna, and in fact it was norovirus from something else. So the Marriott were kind of like exonerated. So it's basically when you're on the crest of about to achieve something amazing, but then you shit yourself. So could Daniel Levy's lookalike be wandering around the park just looking for people who are about to do something amazing, like propose, or and then let's say it's proposing, and then they offer the couple. He offers the couple like a celebratory lasagna
baked potato
on a potato in a bottle.
I wondered if it was just you're in the queue, and just as you get to the front of the queue and you're about to get your Tottenham Hot Potato, you know those fans they have in Spain that sort of blow a mist into your face,
right,
to keep you cool. Obviously, Qatar's very hot, and you're about to eat a hot potato, so you're probably going to want to cool yourself down a tiny bit. Otherwise, you might end up in hospital from sort of internal heat stroke. We could just be blowing norovirus into people's faces, just misting them with noro.
Middleman of the lasagna.
Yeah.
Would you like a potato, or would you like to just straight up have some norovirus?
Exactly. We don't know whether it was... If you want the proper Tottenham Hot Potato experience, then we don't know that it was the Marriott. So let's just get Noro involved, and let's get lots of it involved and get it in people's faces so that they definitely shit themselves before they get to that hot potato.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of friendly fire. There's that norovirus will drift to other, the other rides, and suddenly Gary Lineker's shit yourself loop the loop is going to have a lot of custom.
That velvety aloe vera impregnated AstroTurf is going to be well used, isn't it?
That's a very sensible thing. If you've got the Gary Lineker, Tottenham Hotspur legend, and so you're definitely going to want to put them close to each other. The Tottenham Hotspur. It's perfect. We guarantee that people get to experience that surprise toilet roller coaster. That is.
Well, I think we've also potentially introduced an anti-hero mascot to parade around the grounds of Footballland. He's called Noro, and he's like Zorro, but it's an N. So he does his sword action exactly the same, but it's on its side, so it spells N, and as he dishes out norovirus.
Yeah, and he's instead of a cape, he's got like a wet wipe, and
there's the faintest suspicion that it might be someone connected to West Ham underneath the mask. It could be Mark Noble, but you never find out.
And instead of his horse being silver, it's brown.
Yeah, it's just brown and dripping.
I think we've got enough, right? Grim. Should we vote?
I think we should, yes.
Yeah, okay, all right, let's vote on Ed Singleton's Tottenham Hot Potatoes. All in favour, say aye. 3, 2, 1.
Aye.
Well done, Ed.
Very well done, Ed.
Solid.
Ed Solidton.
Young man, we're building Footballland. said, young man.
Or girl.
We could do with a hand. I said, young man.
Or girl.
Do you understand? You could get in on this. You need to head on to PATR-EON now. PATR-EON. Send us whatever you think. It might be good, it might stink. We will talk about it anyway. You need to head on to PATR-EON now. PATR-EON. Chuck in a couple of pound. We'll bat your thoughts all around. And it might just make our day.
Send us your ideas at patreon.com/footballland. Thank you.
Ryan, what have you got for us?
I've got Juan Sebastian Veron's shoe shine. And it's simply that, really. It's just a little stall or stand with sort of maybe 3 seats with those sort of little foot holsters like you get when you go for a gynecological appointment or something.
I've never been for one of those.
You should try it. It's a ride. I know people don't really wear formal shoes anymore, and maybe formal shoes aren't really the sort of footwear of choice to wear to a theme park. But this is essentially, Juan Sebastian Veron's shoe shine, and it's simply somewhere you go to get stuff. Stuff should shine.
Hang on a minute. So when you went for the gynecological thing, it's actually just like a shoe shining store you get at stations.
You got your fanny buffed.
You could get your fanny buffed if you wanted your fanny buffed. You could get your fanny buffed for sure.
Right, but it's just your shoes.
I don't know what those. Yeah, it's just, What are those things? Little, like a footrest. Let's call it a footrest rather than the other things. Now, it's important to know that Juan doesn't do any of the shining himself.
Right.
He's just simply there like a kind of colourway when you go and sort of buy paint or like one of those shade charts if you want to spray tan. He just uses his head simply and sort of says, is it as shiny as this? And he points to his head. And if whatever is being shined isn't as shiny as Juan Sebastian Veron's head, then the shiner has to sort of just keep going until it is.
Just keep on going. That could take days, couldn't it?
Well, it depends. It depends what it is.
Can you take anything to be shined? Like, could the referee of a snooker match just pop over and just get the balls shined?
100%, right. And I would encourage that. Because at the minute, I've sort of got a list of things that are a bit like a dry cleaners that you could take to be shined, and it's quite short.
Right. Yeah, go on. What are you thinking? Because I can't think of anything you take to a dry cleaners. A brooch?
Well, I've got boots.
Boots,
I've got boots.
fair enough.
Who polishes the football boots?
Well, maybe not these days, but, a bit of dubbing in the old days.
Right.
I mean, any boots, studded or not, right?
Okay.
So take your boots. Bring your boots.
Bring your boots.
We need your business.
Billiard balls.
Billiard balls. We've got that.
Engagement
brooches.
Rings.
Heads.
Yeah, I was going to ask what happens if Fabian Barthez turns up and wants his head polished. Is there a shiny head off?
That's totally fine. So I've also got picture frames, trophies,
right?
brass plaques, and sideboards.
Who's going to bring a sideboard into a theme park?
Well, it's really good though. It's
so
like
good.
it
is good. You would. If
he
you
does a
knew
really
how
good
it was.
finish. Well, yeah, I think he'd do antiques and stuff like that. If you got like a scratch on the coffee table, like in that old Yellow Pages ad, you'd instead of going through the Yellow Pages because they don't exist anymore, you get a budget flight to Qatar, you get your entrance fee to Footballland. Juan Sebastian Veron would look at that scratch and he'd just buff it out.
Hello, French polishers. No, actually, this is Footballland. Oh, it could be you might just be able to save my life.
You're going to have a very interesting clientele turning up to Footballland every day. You've got 99% of the park is football fans there to see the rides. Then you've got a very small number of people that bring in their dressers and their side tables.
Antiques Roadshow coming from Footballland. That's a good way of earning extra cash.
I'm just trying to broaden the customer base. I know you raised Fabian Barthez. The reason why I went with Juan Sebastian Veron was because his head is definitely the shiniest. There's some contenders. Sort of Zidane, Attilio Lombardo, Tamara Ketspire. None of them outperform Juan Sebastian Veron for shine. like John Joe Shelby's head is weirdly quite dull.
Well, he's gone for the matte finish. That's why.
Maybe he could be one end of the spectrum.
Well, that's it. He's gone matte finish. His is a bit rubbery looking, isn't it? It looks a bit like a sort of like maybe like a discarded Veruca sock,
right.
Or like you remember those old industrial gloves they used to use to hold uranium. Like it's a very weird finish, John Joe Shelby's head, and it's quite disturbing. But I'm very willing to put him on the one end of the scale.
Was it Laurent Blanc that used to kiss Barthez's head?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he used to kiss his head, and depending on how important the game was, like he'd use a tongue.
Yeah,
and sometimes the kiss, used to last 3 or 4 minutes until he'd licked the whole of Barthez's head from nape to forehead.
And there were, before the World Cup final, he deliberately dislocated his own jaw so that he could get the whole of Barthez's head into his mouth.
Yeah. And he sucked it like a gobstopper.
Until it was tiny. When Barthez came out, his head was really small.
Yeah, so what I'm getting from you guys is that maybe the shine comes from spit, and we do know the old spit shine. That is a thing.
We already need a lot of spit to power various parts of Footballland.
Yeah.
Veron is still, it's natural. His is au naturel. It's a natural shine.
True.
But maybe you can have a spit shine option where Laurent Blanc comes and French kisses your boots or your coffee table.
Yeah.
Just licks it like a Labrador.
Maybe at the end of each day, everything that has been shined by the Juan Sebastian Veron's shoe shine, it's lined up. So, we've got a series of bald hairs, we've got a brooch, we've got a mid-Georgian period sideboard, and Laurent Blanc wanders down the line and kisses the thing that he thinks is the best.
What would those people who don't like football, they've just come in with their Edwardian sideboard, what are they, they've come in early to get it shined so that they don't miss out, and then they've got to hang around for the whole day in the heat of Qatar so that Laurent Blanc might kiss their table. What else can they do in Footballland?
If they're sensible, even though they're wearing shorts because it's so hot, they will have sensible shoes on just to get the most amount of value from the shoe shine.
They've probably brought all of their wares, a bit of brass. They've saved it up. It's a bit like when you go to a dry cleaners, you know what I mean? You don't want to go like piecemeal, like, I've got this coat to dry clean, I've got these, wool slippers or whatever people go and get dry clean.
Because we're talking furniture, we need to locate this near an entry to the park that can handle like furniture removal vans.
There's going to be a lot of transportation. No, I think, Mark, it's got to be in the middle. If you want to if you want this done, and you're that desperate to have your antiques shined, then you've got to put in the effort yourself and walk with it all.
Would it be cheating if you motorised your Georgian sideboard and drove it across the park?
No, I'm going to go counters that. I think it should be what you can carry. Because, again, I'd like to keep this more in line with dry cleaners. And sometimes they do it by weight, which is totally weird, isn't it? Like, you can have this many kilos of shirts. Who's weighing the shirts?
Yeah.
And why does that matter?
Yeah.
What are you getting scales involved for?
I think it's very strong. I think it's very strong.
Yeah, very, very strong. And great to think of other clienteles.
Yes.
Very good.
That's opened up a whole new income channel for the park. So, I think we're ready to vote on this, aren't we? Everyone in favour of Juan Sebastian Veron's shoe shine, say aye. 3, 2, 1.
Aye.
Happy vase that looks late. Shiny happy vase that looks late. Get Juan Sebastian Veron to buff your antique. Juan Sebastian Veron to buff your antique. He'll shine your shoes or kiss you on the head. Shine your shoes or kiss you on the head. Or help that lady lift her sideboard instead. Help that lady lift her sideboard instead.
What a lovely episode of Footballland podcast that was.
It really was.
It was lovely.
No,
It's really lovely.
But it's not lovely because this is a business, Mark, and we're actually trying to make money.
It's lovely business.
You know, behind every business meeting, there's actually a cutthroat will to succeed and win, and that's what we have shown throughout.
But with a human side, so it's lovely bastards.
Yeah, like Disney, because you cannot deny that Disney. You know, there's a lot of soul that goes into their films, especially that Moana one with The Rock.
Yeah. I've not seen it, but I'm sure it is.
And Lady and the Tramp, you know, especially when they boned.
Did they? Is that scene in the film? I don't remember that scene.
They did. It was 15 minutes.
Director's
they had a
cut.
threesome with the Scotty dog.
How come the outros always get so bawdy? They normally end up with you either having a wank, going for a poo, or
on the curtains.
describing some Disney...
Everyone knows there's a deleted a little Easter egg in every Disney film that's bawdy, mate. So don't blame me. Blame Disney, Roy and Walt and Christopher Disney, Susan Disney,
Dennis
Martha Disney.
Don't forget Keith Disney.
So don't blame me. Blame them.
Very good. Very good. Lovely.
All right, then.
See you next
That was
time.
lovely.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.